Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick, and today guys we're going to be jumping down into the world of Cardano's ADA, taking a look at what's been going on most recently with the price action and what I would expect to happen next. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, check it out, linked in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. We're going to be taking a look at a couple of things in this video. We're going to be taking a look at Elliott wave theory in the first part, and then we'll take a look at smart money concepts in the second. So let's get right down into it. Cardano paired up with USDT on the hourly chart, and Binance is the data source. I've kind of removed a lot of the analysis just to kind of bring this up to speed with anyone who's new. But essentially we can see that up here on this hourly chart, February the 16th, we actually saw this around midnight peaking out. Okay, so we can see that we have a local top just about here. This was 42.13 cents. Okay, since then we've kind of seen this kind of, violent and volatile movement, kind of choppy to the downside. And really we need to analyze what kind of structure is here so that we can, get our heads around where things are likely to go next. So let's go ahead and start at the very top here. So we can see straight off the bat we have a three-wave structured move to the downside there. We can also see that we have three waves right up here. Also very easy to spot. We then also have another three waves right in here, like that. We then bounce up a little bit. Really difficult to kind of see exactly what's going on in that one, but it would have to be three waves because we do come down deeper afterwards and we never come back up. We can see that there. So this will have to contain three waves. So I'm not going to mark it because it's going to be a little bit difficult, but we'll just leave it and understand that there is a move upwards there that has to be corrective. We then take a look at this move and we can see a pretty interesting move to the downside right inside here, but we can of course acknowledge that this is a much deeper three-wave structure in itself, all the way down to this point here. Okay, so at the moment we've kind of have these kind of corrections kind of being strung together, and I think if we actually remove this one off of our list, we can actually then start to think, okay, well here we have a clear move down, we bounced up and then we moved down again, so we might even be able to kind of consider this area here also very corrective in the way that it's moving. But then if we start thinking, about actually if I take a WXY in this example, W, X and Y, we can then also see that we move down here. So I'm quite happy to kind of think of this also as a potential different structure altogether emerging in here, as I do kind of think we have this bigger move to the downside as we kind of get into this low. So actually before we kind of mark those up, what I want to do is I want to figure out exactly what's going on. I can see that we have five waves right in here. Okay, we can see that right in there. I don't need to measure it. I can kind of get a good feel for that one right in there, which then means that we're either going 3, 3, 5 to this point, which is probably something that could occur, which will actually tie us in quite nicely, thinking that we have a bigger move to the downside. I think that's probably what's actually occurring, so I will go ahead and mark that up as such like this. Okay, so now we have three waves down, three waves up, three waves coming down, that three waves being a lot bigger than the first three. This will actually then lead us into thinking, okay, what is potentially on the cards here. Now if I take this move, we can quite easily see that we go past the 1.618, don't need to measure it, and that means that this is actually a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. Up here is wave 4, and we're looking at this progression to the downside. Now, this progression to the downside looks like we have an expanding diagonal at the beginning, up into a wave 2. In fact, actually, let me sure I get my bearings on that wave 2. Could even be a flat, but we'll kind of keep it as a corrective WXYXZ. And then, of course, we can see that we move back down again. And it does appear that we have a wave 3 down here. This is a wave 4, and we got a little bit of a move to the downside. This would essentially mean that we're in a much bigger corrective state overall, okay? So let's go ahead and pull that into play here. So from this higher side, we can go 1, 2, down here is for 3, up here is to 4, and we've got to come down into 5. Now, as I said, this wave 1 looks to me like the only thing that would fit here would be a expanding diagonal. Now, an expanding diagonal is different than a leading diagonal. It happens in a wave 1 still, or potentially even a wave 5 in an ending position. But the reason for this is that we would have to see a couple of criteria get hit. With an expanding diagonal, or with a leading diagonal, our wave 3 situation here would have to be 1.618 times that of wave 1, which it is not. However, under an expansion or an expanding diagonal, we would actually articulate this slightly differently, which would be if I were to anchor that in, we could see this coming down. In fact, I'd have to anchor it in over here. We can see that expansion comes out, right? And our only real requirement here is that wave 5 is the longest, which it is, and that wave 3 is not the shortest. And for that, what we're going to do is we're going to basically take a fib, we're going to just run it on the wave 1, copy this over to our wave 2, and as long as we're past the 1-to-1, which we are, we know that it's not the shortest wave. Therefore, we can quite easily go, this is a diagonal, and it would come in here with a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, coming in down here at that low point just here, and then up into wave 4, and then have that big wave 5 coming down to the bottom. So we have that diagonal structure right in there. What I will do is I'll just make this yellow so we can see that sub count just in there, and I'll actually also just change the degree into a subminute so we can see it like that. Okay, so now if we have that as an expansion and we kind of have this big overextension on the wave 5, but we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 coming in here. I'll draw those in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We can see those in there. That fits. We then have the correction going up, and then we can see also down here an interesting start. It looks like we've done the wave 1, wave 2, wave 1 coming down here is also very interesting. We come up into the wave 2 at this point. We actually have quite a few nested movements inside here. Does look like we are just starting this 5th wave movement to the downside, or the 5th wave, or the 3rd wave of the 5th wave, essentially. So essentially, if I were to, without saying the word essentially a dozen times in a row, go ahead and take a look at this, we can see that we'll be aiming for 32 cent to complete the wave 3 situation. However, again, this could be a diagonal of sorts. It most likely will be a diagonal coming in here. So we'll be looking to keep an eye on whether this turns into an expanding diagonal or whether we get an ending diagonal. It doesn't look like it's a contracting. We would have had a bigger wave 1 in that particular case, but it's still possible that we do truncate and do those kind of things. But for the most part, our expectations would be that we'll be in some kind of 5 waves count for this final 5th wave move to the downside. Now, as I go ahead and draw this on, our expectations of this move to the downside, provided that the wave 4 is complete, we'll go ahead and draw this on. So provided that the wave 4 is complete here, invalidation would occur much higher. So it would get invalidated at this level at 34.85. But our lows at the moment would be indicated 30.74 cent to 31.59 cent. Okay, so as I kind of zoom out of this, we can then take stock of this entire situation. We have ourselves here a 3-wave count of a W, X, and potentially Y, finishing off down at the end there. So all in all, it looks very interesting as a kind of structure. It's not going down in an impulsive way by the looks of it. It does look like it is kind of coming down into these corrections nice and slow. So let's go ahead and take a look at smart money concepts for this as well. We'll take a look at it on the hourly, and we'll see what smart money concepts is going to show us about Cardano ADA's recent price movement. So we don't need to worry too much. I mean, I'll zoom out just a fraction here. We don't have to worry too much about what's going on ahead of time. The only things that we really need to know are that we had a change of characteristic from our bullish change. So we had a bullish movement to the upside that got broke, was not sustainable, and we had another change of characteristic to the downside. This was then confirmed with a break of structure, or a CTS, to the downside, and essentially this is then confirming that we are bearish right now on Cardano's ADA, at least on the 1-hour chart. Okay, we can't get too more carried away without checking the higher time frames, but on the on this one here, we can see that on the hourly chart we have confirmation of moves to the downside. We actually haven't got any major breaks or even minor breaks to the upside to give us any kind of bullish sentiment. Even with the minor movements, they all look pretty bearish as well. So for now, it looks like that's pretty interesting. There are a couple of other things that are worth noting. This gap right here, this is an imbalance in an order book, as is this one. These will eventually get filled out. They can be up here for a while though, can be something that gets filled straight away, can be something that gets filled a year down the line. Okay, but we do note that these exist and we should pay attention to them. This is basically 37.21 through to a high of 37.76, and then the second one on the higher side is 39.85 to the higher range of 40.27. Okay, so we know that they exist. We should acknowledge them. We can't ignore them. Price will eventually gravitate up towards those at some point. But we are bearish because we haven't got any change of characteristics that indicate that we are looking to go on up. We found ourselves getting rejected from equilibrium. We can also see here we have minor break of structures continuing our move to the downside. We have a strong high and a weak low. Basically, smart money concepts is indicating to me that we are more than likely going to be going down into that fifth wave movement. And I think smart money concepts in this particular case is confirming the same data as Elliott wave theory. They're both kind of complementing each other here, understanding that this structure is likely to go down. Now, if I go back to Elliott wave theory for a second, when we complete this structure on the lower side at 30 to 31 cent, we'll be looking for a bigger corrective structure to the upside. It's this upside movement that's most likely going to fill these areas. So we could basically be thinking about the upper move towards 40 cent once we drop down to 30 cent. Okay, but we can't think about going up until we've gone down first. That would be my kind of approach to this. Of course, invalidation is set up there at 42.13 cent. No, it's not. Sorry, scrap that. Invalidation is actually set at 34.85. So if price did move up to 34.85, then of course we can then start to think about a move up towards these fair value gaps, these imbalances in the order book a little bit earlier. But until then, 30 cents should be on our radars. And essentially that's kind of what is being confirmed here with smart money concepts aligned to Elliott wave theory. These two things are telling us pretty much a similar story. Now on the stochastic RSI, we are overbought on the 1 hour, looking to just come down from here. On the 4 hour chart, we have progressed up without actually creating much in the way of price movement. This is also a bearish tell, so we should also pay attention to what that's telling us as well. Essentially, we are setting up for a bit of a move to the upside, but we can't get ourselves too carried away until we get confirmation of that. But I do think that's likely to happen once we actually set the new low. You can also see that recently on this 4 hour chart, we've changed a characteristic to bearish after setting this bullish one of break of structure up to here and our change of characteristic over this side. So now we have a major break to the downside. But when we see these, we do usually actually see reversal upwards before you actually go and confirm a break of structure to the downside. Some clear examples are over here, we actually changed a characteristic to bullish after moving down to the November lows, I think, December lows. We saw this change of characteristic. Once we broke and got this change of characteristic, we actually gravitated back down. We didn't quite fill this order block here, this fair value gap, this imbalance in the order books. We didn't fit it all, but we did come down and then we rallied on up, right? So expect that with change of character, you do come in the opposite direction. So although that we have got here a characteristic change, we haven't yet come back up. Chances are that we will be moving up towards some of these imbalances and trying to kind of fill those fair value gaps before maybe moving down. It's unlikely that we're going to move up of significance or move up significantly that will change this characteristic back to bullish anytime soon, but we'll keep a close eye on it. Like I said, that stochastic RSI is giving us a pretty clear indication that things are bearish right now. On an 8 hour, also get a very similar vibe on the stochastic. The 12 hour, not so much. It's actually okay. 16 hours, okay. Can continue to go down. Same with the 20 hour. And the daily is in the oversold area, waiting to complete that fifth wave movement, I think, before we can see that next three wave structured move to the upside. So things are definitely progressing quite nicely, but we cannot ignore the fact that we are still in a bearish state. This is also something that can be seen here on our daily time frame for Cardano. We can see that we had this change of characteristic that was basically created up here in February of 2022. We then got the break of structure and confirmed this back in May, and then we got another one down here when we got the lows in October. We are still in this bearish state. We have had no change of characteristic of bullish state of mind for Cardano. So essentially these remain true, and we're likely to come back down and break this structure at some point. We also have an incredibly weak low with a strong high. So again, these things are confirming that we're bearish on ADA at this daily level. That being said, we are oversold, so do expect price to go up, but do not expect price to break into a new bullish structure. Essentially, I think the bearish narrative here is coming through thick and fast for Cardano. But that being said, it's a project that I do believe in long term. It's a project that I think will do incredibly well. It's a project that I own an awful lot of ADA, right? It's one of those. I think you got to appreciate the fact that it will go down in value and it will go back up in value at some point in the future. Essentially, at the moment, it looks like there's more value to be had at the lower side. So do expect price to go down accumulate if you can, dollar cost average, all the usual kind of stuff. But do bear in mind, I'm not a financial advisor, can't give you financial advice. All I can do is give you my thoughts and opinions on the data in the charts as I see it. I'm going to wrap this one up there though, guys. If you found it useful and informative, then do go ahead and hit that like button. Really do appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. If you haven't joined us in Discord, check it out. Linked in the description below. Might as well, while I'm here, shill the BitGet link. Check that out. No one else is offering the kind of deals that we are at the moment on BitGet, so do check that out. Linked in the description below if you're actively trading or looking to get into trading. There's some fantastic stuff available over at BitGet. Link in the description below. Until the next one, though, guys, have a fantastic day.